Without sounding hyperbolic, after going hands-on with End of Abyss at Summer Game Fest, it might be the next evolution of the Metroidvania genre. It began when Metroid revolutionized the genre in 1986, and then Metroid once again took the genre to new heights with Metroid Prime in 2002. During the Summer Game Fest presentation, End of Abyss jumped off the screen and captured my attention. It looked like an atmospheric twin-stick shooter from the likes of Playdead or Tarsier Studios, and there is good reason for that, which I'll get to very shortly. I had the privilege to sit down and play End of Abyss with Mattias Ottval, one of the co-founders of Section 9 Interactive. He talked about the humble beginnings of the game, the inspirations driving the design, and how it evolved from a top-down twin-stick shooter to a Metroidvania. When my time was up with End of Abyss, I knew I had played something special, and it comes down to three simple things. Number 1, the studio pedigree. Number 2, the inspirations. And number 3, the design philosophy.
Before jumping in, we just want to take a few seconds out of your day. If at the end of the video you enjoyed it, subscribe and see more like it. Video games is a positivity-first gaming outlet. We believe that gaming should be a force for good. We focus on making uplifting content with constructive discussions and celebrating what makes games great. Not revealed in the trailer, but Section 9 Interactive is a very small studio that was founded by previous founders of Tarsier Studios, including tech leads, art leads, and creative directors. Mattias said that they didn't want to lead with this information in the trailer, which revealed a lot about his character. It showed respect for the people who still remain at Tarsier, but it also showed a humbleness of the achievements that everyone at Section 9 Interactive have accomplished. However, this information is strongly indicative to the end product that we are going to receive. This was the first pleasant surprise that I was treated to when I walked into the private room to go hands-on with Section 9 Interactive's debut title slated for 2026. The second pleasant surprise was that the trailer just looked like a top-down twin-stick shooter, but he quickly told me that End of Abyss had evolved into a Metroidvania. The list of inspiration for End of Abyss is long. From outside the gaming medium, End of Abyss is inspired from Alien, Akira, The Thing, and Ghost in the Shell. The most prominent inspiration is easily Ridley Scott's 1979 horror film Alien. Obviously, there's the female protagonist, but also just like the crew of the Nostromo, who followed a distress signal in the deep reaches of space that fated most of the people aboard, End of Abyss follows a very similar structure by investigating a distress signal that says, "To the one that hears this, we are waiting for you." And although investigating distress signals has become a sci-fi trope, I think that's because the device works perfectly as it taps into the core of humanity and our innate desire to help others. The Alien inspiration carries forward with tech like the scanner that feels very retro-futuristic. You play as a young combat engineer called Cell with one L. You're part of a team that descends into this abandoned underground facility, but somehow you have become separated and are now isolated in the depths of the unknown. It's clear that something is very wrong with this facility. It's clearly been abandoned for a while, and some type of parasite has taken over. Mattias also mentioned how Ghost in the Shell and Akira were big inspirations for End of Abyss, and while we only really saw a dystopian futuristic setting, it would be safe to assume that Cell is a cybernetic human similar to the Major from Ghost in the Shell, and the upgrades that she will find to go deeper into the Abyss will be augments of her body, but that's just theory at this moment. This might be a bit of a tangent, but I'm reminded of FX's The Bear when I think about what makes End of Abyss so great. The best plates in the best restaurants in the world have less elements than more because less is more. Mattias tells me that End of Abyss is deeply inspired by the early NES classics, The Legend of Zelda and Metroid. Worlds that were vast, full of mystery, danger, and begged to be explored. The focus was on exploration, non-linearity, and atmosphere. There was also something so intriguing about never knowing what's around the next corner, and that is echoed in End of Abyss. Mechanically, the minimalist approach is carried over as well. You begin with a pistol and a scanner, there is a craft bench and a save cube that you emerge from, and that's it. Boss combat also goes for a less is more approach with a Souls-like inspiration that requires proper dodge timing and taking advantage of moments of weakness. However, the Souls-like inspiration ends there, as Mattias said that you don't lose anything upon death except for the distance to get there. Walking around the facility, you hear your footsteps echo, the metal creaks, the scanner makes electronic beeps, wind lightly howls through tunnels, and disturbing things make disturbing sounds.
If there was music in the demo, it was used extremely sparsely because End of Abyss was better because of it. The atmosphere created immersed you in this isolation just like the original Metroid, combined with the high tension from limited ammo, low health, and slow reload speed. End of Abyss is taking a lot of vintage genre elements and mixing them together with modern ones, including the map icon from Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, where you had the ability to pin the map with a picture. However, in End of the Abyss, you will need to scan the item or the door, and then it will remain on your map with all of the pertinent details. Most importantly, a lot of this wouldn't make much difference if the game didn't play well, but it does. End of Abyss was easily the best thing that I played at Summer Game Fest with its dark, atmospheric tone paired with a unique perspective and its twin-stick controls. End of Abyss felt as much like survival horror as it did twin-stick shooter, as it did a Metroidvania, which ultimately meant that it felt like nothing I've ever experienced before, and why it's my most anticipated game of 2026.
That's all for today, but until next time, be good to your fellow gamer, but more importantly, be better to your fellow human.